Hello and welcome back to Guide to Brides, the wedding podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, you might notice we've got a very different backdrop to what we usually have. We've taken the podcast on the road today to the Henley Distillery, which we're very excited to be in. It is such a beautiful space. And you know us, we really like to bring you really interesting ideas to the podcast so that you can get some really good inspiration for your wedding and even your hen parties. And that's what we're going to discuss today at Henley Distillery. They are some wedding drink suppliers as well as hen-do experience suppliers, so you've got plenty of options. If you're interested in any of those, make sure you stay listening. Today I'm joined by Jacob from the Henley Distillery team, and he is going to discuss all things wedding drinks with us today. Jacob, would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, first off, thank you very much for having me. I'm Jacob. I'm the founder and master distiller at the Henley Distillery. And we produce our Henley gin, as well as you kindly mentioned, we do a gin experience where people can come along, they can make their own gin in our miniature stills that we've got as our backdrop behind us.
Yes, these some beautiful miniature stills, which we were like completely obsessed with as a backdrop for a podcast episode.
They do have the advantage of, as well as producing lovely gin, they do look the part as well and look gorgeous. So yeah, not bad to have lying around for a backdrop.
No, absolutely not. And how long have you been making gin here for?
So we've only been around for about 18 months.
Wow, so really, really new then.
Yeah, pretty new. I've been running distilleries around the UK for nearly 8 years, but I've always wanted to come back to my hometown, Henley-on-Thames, and launch a distillery here. I just wanted to make sure I had the right experience to do it before I started.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we wanted to hit the ground running. We wanted to be producing top quality spirits and providing top quality service and experiences before we did so. Took our time, and then COVID pushed us back a little bit, but we finally got there. June 25th last year was when we launched.
Amazing. And so when you are distilling gin, is there any sort of secrets that you've learnt over the years to make it as amazing as Henley gin is? Because I have had a tot this morning, which is which is the perfect start to the day.
Always, you've got to start your day with gin. As we were just mentioning before cameras were rolling, we're distilling today, and we were in from around 5 a.m, which means as a distiller I'm drinking from about 7 a.m.
Oh wow!
Straight off the still. So
amazing.
If you're not starting the day right, if you're not starting the day with gin, you're not starting the day right.
Drink responsibly, folks. So we're here to talk about sort of wedding drinks and hen-do and stag-do experiences, which we'll get really into in a few minutes. But I think we should start with sort of the general drinks at weddings, alcohol at weddings sort of topic. Lots of couples have dry hire wedding venues for their day, which means that they've got literally no other suppliers involved. They've just hired the space, and they will need to get drinks in or a drink supplier in to sort of do that side of the wedding for them. So I think in terms of amount of alcohol you need for your wedding, that can be quite a tricky thing to work out, can't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a scary one because you always dread running out.
Yes.
And kind of getting to kind of 10:30, 11 o'clock and there's nothing left. But then obviously the cost is considerable, and you don't want to buy too much. So it's a really tricky balance to try and find. Also then split between wine, beer, spirits, soft drinks for everyone else who doesn't want to drink or might be driving or this, that and the other, and also kids. Mm-hmm. So it's a really tricky one to kind of muddle through. Mm-hmm. The probably number one tip is to to always ask, if you have a supplier in mind, always ask if they're willing to do sale and return. Mm-hmm. Because that allows you a lot of freedom with kind of deliberately over ordering, and then you know that whatever doesn't get used you can send back, so that mm-hmm. kind of takes a lot of the pressure off. If you can't do that, then it comes down to thinking about drinks per head. Mm-hmm. And so you can equate a bottle of wine to 3 large glasses, a bottle of spirits or kind of gin in particular. You get in a 70cl bottle 28 shots. Mm-hmm. So you can think that that's either 28 gin and tonics or 14 double gin and tonics. And then start factoring in which drink you want as your toast drink, because you can guarantee kind of that quantity over and above everything else. Mm. So there's lots of factors in, and then you get down to mixed drinks and mixers. So again, mixers, I think Tesco used to be a really good one because they used to do sale and return. on stock. Since COVID, I'm not 100% sure of that anymore. It's definitely worth checking out. But yeah, some supermarkets used to do sale and return on things like soft drinks. As long as it's unopened and
not touched,
it's sometimes fine. But certainly other suppliers are typically open to it.
Fab. So when we're thinking about 100 guests then at a wedding, say, it's a considerable amount of alcohol that you're buying if you're buying it all in yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be a significant outlay. So you're looking at, depending on the timing of your wedding, the day, etc., you normally want to give a good spread of different wines. So you're normally looking at red, white, and rosé for your wine. You probably, if you're covering spirits, you're definitely looking at probably a London dry gin and a slightly fruitier pink gin. A lot of people are doing quite extensive gin bars these days, which is fantastic. So you can kind of have a big array of gins. But you can then find suppliers where they've maybe got a kind of a good range of gins, and then you're dealing with one person, rather than if you start trying to source from several different locations, it starts to become more difficult. So with such a complex thing, you want to try and keep it as simple as it can be. So rather than find 15 different places that you're buying your drinks from, try and keep it to kind of a set few, because that then limits the complications that can arise.
Amazing. So when we are talking about alcohol, then, you know, we've talked about the fact you need to consider how many adults you're inviting, how many of those adults might be driving or not drinking, and then children as well. So what percentage of guests would you suggest is a good number to cater for if you look at your whole guest list for alcohol, in your professional opinion?
So if obviously you can take children out. If you look at the adults, I would typically look at it for, and again, it depends on how long your kind of day is, whether it's mainly into the evening or not. But you can typically think probably it depends, but in the kind of 6 to 10 drink range for all of your guests, and then from that, it factors in that some people might be driving and might have only one for the toast. Some might get a bit jolly and have a few more. And then,
but they generally equate for those other people, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, but then, with the help of sale and return, you can then deliberately buy
a bit too much. Yeah, perfect. So when we talk about sort of alcohol at weddings, there are the staples. We said the wines, we said the spirits. When it comes to spirits, what would you suggest as being like the range that you should have?
So we'll start off with gin. That's my speciality.
Yeah, your speciality.
So nice and easy one for me. Definitely a classic kind of London dry gin.
Yep.
It's what most people go for, and it's kind of that staple on a bar. You've then probably got a kind of more fruity pink gin on there as well. That caters for people who are looking for that kind of slightly sweeter gin and tonic. You can go further, so you can get a spicier gin or something a bit more unusual. But then you're looking at, you probably want to have some vodka. That's nice and simple, kind of vodka and mixers. You're then looking at white and spiced rum.
Okay.
If you're going to pick between the two, I'd probably go spiced as the more popular one of the two. But for spirits in general, those I would say are probably the big five is dry gin, pink gin, vodka, white and spiced rum. You're then into things like tequila, if you particularly want that, and kind of tequila shots on the bar is sometimes fun. So you've then got kind of the salt and the lime, etc. But you're into your more unusual spirits that are not going to be drunk in great volumes unless you want them to be a specific part of your day and part of your bar. Yeah,
because I guess like a rum and coke, vodka and coke, gin and tonic are very common things that people would order at a bar.
Yeah.
But then like maybe a whiskey for dad and granddad.
So you might have a special bottle of whiskey or two that are behind the bar that are specifically for that. Or you might know that a few of your friends or family love a Jack Daniels and Coke or kind of a bourbon and Coke as well. So it's definitely on there. I think it's probably just after those top five that you then look at more who you know is coming, and therefore if you know there's a handful of whiskey drinkers or a handful of
so like maybe
drinkers,
1 or 2 bottles of of that and 1 or 2 bottles of this, but I know that, I know quite a lot of my guests are going to want to have a gin and tonic. I know that's a very clear thing to me.
Absolutely.
So that actually might be my drinks reception drink, and I know you're getting married as well, aren't you?
I am indeed. That's, as of 3 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Proposed. Thank you very much. I was very thankful she said yes.
Brilliant. So, and I do know that you're going to be managing a lot of that bar side of the planning, aren't you?
Yes. So we've already had, we've seen our first 3 venues this weekend just gone, which is very exciting. And do
you think you found the one?
Not quite yet. I think it's possible. We've got one that's a maybe, but yeah, we're so busy run up to Christmas with the distillery because my partner Katie, my fiance.
Oh, so difficult to get that right, isn't it?
I've not quite got into that.
I'm still doing it too.
My fiance Katie works in the business as well, and this is our busiest time. But we just wanted to have we just wanted to go see a couple of venues to just get into the kind of.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, the feel of it and have the excitement. So we went to see a few, and we were I was very much. Well, the bar is the one thing that I'm allowed to be in control of. So this is definitely high on my priority list. Yeah,
and that's the thing we always say on this podcast. You've got to know what your priorities are before you can even move forward with anything. And if your priority is a bar, I assume, are you going for like dry hire venues then, or are you going for ones that have got an in-house team?
I prefer a dry hire venue because that allows us to do kind of whatever we want and makes it easy. But we are open. We are putting the venue above the bar. I lost that coin flip, unfortunately. So no, absolutely, we're putting the venue above the bar, but
it's still high on your priority list.
Yeah, we definitely want Henley Gin and our spirits incorporated into our wedding. So it is.
Of course you do. It's your passion. It's it's part of you, isn't it? And we always say, like, you've got to personalise your day.
Yeah.
And speaking of personalisation, one of the things that we really wanted to come and talk to you about was your really unique experience for couples. Yes. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. So you can see our lovely backdrop if you're watching. We do the most amazing experience here at the distillery. So it's you come along to the distillery, and you can come along as a couple, or you can book out the experience room for up to 12 people, and you come along. It's supposed to be 3 hours. You might find this out as we go through this podcast. Once I start talking about gin, I don't generally stop talking about gin, so it can be a bit longer.
That's okay, we don't mind that.
So you come along, you get gin and tonics, you get cocktails, you get a little bit of a history talk on gin, and a full tour of our distillery, so you see how and how we make our gin and our spirits and why we do it that way. And then we put you in front of one of our gorgeous little 2-litre copper pot stills, and we've got a wall of over 100 botanicals, and we guide you through physically distilling your very own bespoke bottle of gin. So not another bottle of gin in the world like it. And the beauty of it is it's completely bespoke to your tastes. So it is exactly the flavours that you want distilled through. And the extra special thing that we can do with that is that we can then take your recipe and we can put that onto or scale it up onto our 20-litre still.
Wow. And
then for your wedding, you can have up to 24 large bottles of your very own gin with your bespoke label for your wedding day. Or we can split that into 12 large bottles and 120 miniatures to give out as wedding favours. We've also got some templates ready for, if you don't use all the gin, you can have maybe 3 of the bottles as a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year kind of label on there. So you can open them on anniversaries. So loads you can do, and it's a really fun experience for couples or stag do's, hen do's.
Wedding party, I guess, as well,
in general, yeah. So we can do lots, and we can do a his and hers gin, or you can collaborate on a gin.
That sounds really, really like fascinating, because I mean I'm a bit of a sort of gin lover myself, so it's a bit of a nerdy thing for me. Is I like to go around the distilleries and I like to try all the different things. Probably why we came here today, let's be honest. But it's a really unique experience, and I think that's what our listeners love to sort of find out about, these little hidden gems. So you were a wedding drink supplier in a past life before the Henley Distillery. So what are your recommendations for couples for a smooth bar service? Because that can make or break the evening reception, can't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you never want people, especially getting into the evening, queuing up at the bar when you've got maybe live music or the DJ going and everyone's kind of in that party feel. You want the bar to be nice and quick and smooth. Sometimes you want the bar to be something that people remember and a highlight, but what you certainly don't want people remembering is queuing up and waiting for drinks. So when you're thinking about the menu of what drinks you might want to serve, it's always got to be carefully tailored, and you've got to have a little thought about, okay, people may want this certain drink, but it takes a little bit longer to make. So that's going to slow down service a little bit, and actually, are people going to miss it if it's not on there? And you can put something that's a little bit quicker, and then the day in the bar runs a little bit smoother as well. Yeah,
it's almost that sort of analysis of what's actually worthwhile having. And if it's something that you love and it's something special to you, then absolutely have it on your day. But if it's a case of, I know a mojito is very difficult to make. If that's going to slow down the service, is it worth having it on the menu or not?
Well, exactly. So that's exactly what I used to do for a previous business in a previous life, as you mentioned. Was I used to run a pop-up cocktail bar for events and weddings, and so I would always dread the moment as kind of thinking about having meetings with people, that people say, oh, I really want a mojito. And that's not because mojito isn't an amazing drink. It's one of my top kind of favorite cocktails. However, to do a mojito right, it takes a bit of time. You've got to properly go through the stages of making a mojito. And I would always try and advise people, well, look, yes, people love a mojito, but there are such a good range of quick, easy, build-in-the-glass cocktails that are quick to serve and that you can pre-prep a lot as a bartender and as a bar team, that you can then make sure service is still speedy. So you can still have cocktails, but it might be worth asking the bar, if the venue is providing the bar or there's a bar service doing it, ask them regarding cocktails which are quick and easy to make, but obviously also delicious. You can't miss that. But get their recommendation on what they recommend. But quick and easy is key. Number one, I think.
So are there any cocktails that you recommend sort of as a starting point that people might want to consider for a quick and smooth bar service?
So there's certain ones that you can pre-mix. So you've got things like a Sex on the Beach is nice and easy. So you've got vodka, a little bit of peach schnapps, and then cranberry juice and orange juice. So that's all built in the glass, tastes delicious, nice and fresh and fruity. And quick to serve, and you can pre-mix a lot of that. But then you've got a lot that you can do with gin as well. So we do a lovely one with our rhubarb and orange, where it's nice and simple. It's a bit of lemon juice, a bit of agave syrup, and then gin and ginger ale, and that works beautifully. And again, you can pre-squeeze all the lemon juice, and you can have your syrup ready, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4
done.
Cocktails done. Works really, really well.
So in terms of mixers, so we've talked about cocktails, we've talked about what kinds of spirits that we might want to have on our bar at the wedding. What type of mixers would we want to consider?
So you definitely want to cover the staples, but sometimes it is a case of less choice is better.
Yes, let's just think about the toddler. You can have this one or this one. What would you like?
Exactly that. And it's a case of, again, you want the bar service to be quick from the bartender's point of view, serving the drinks, but also you don't want people getting to the front and then trying to read a list of all the different mixes. And do
you know what? I always go to a bar and I'm like, well, I always go to a bar. I do always go to bars. No, when you go to a bar and you're like there and you're like, I want a gin and tonic, and they're like, okay, which gin would you like? Or which tonic would you like? And I'm like, I don't know, whichever one is best with this one.
Exactly that. So you can cover off 99% of people with the staples. So you probably want straight Indian tonic and a light tonic. Then you want Coke, Diet Coke, probably some lemonade, ginger ale's probably in there, and then maybe a juice, a couple of kind of juice options for
cranberry juice, orange juice.
Yeah, for the kids and for mixing and with spirits as well. But definitely, yeah, keep it simple, because people know what they want, and then they can get to the bar and see, oh, we've got these 17 different flavoured tonics, and then
like
you confuse them.
It's what is it? The sort of the too much choice problem.
Yeah.
You can't think of the word right now, but yeah, there is literally, if you've got too much choice, you're going to end up completely losing it, because it just give them a simple 3-4 options to choose from.
You know they're going to love them, and as long as you've picked kind of top quality spirits and top quality mixes, kind of the combinations aren't going to come together nicely. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. Especially if you're doing a very DIY wedding bar. It's one of those things that you're not going to have an expert there potentially to help you. So gin and tonic. Yeah. That's one very quick thing. Exactly. But where you've got a sort of a bar service to come and help you, they should be able to give you that expertise and insight, shouldn't they? Yes,
and they might come with a preset kind of mixer list. So they might provide some of the mixes and the spirits. You might provide some. It might be kind of a blend, or you might be just hiring them to serve the drinks. But either way, if you've got kind of a professional coming in to run the bar, they're going to have their recommendations. And ultimately, I'm giving you what I think, but if kind of someone else is saying a differing opinion, who is going to be running the bar, that's how they like to work and how they're going to be more efficient. So listening to them is always crucial.
So I think that is a really nice point to sort of move on to talking about how you can personalise your drinks at a wedding. And I think the things that guests remember are always like the personal touches, or the things that reflect you as a couple. I know signature cocktails are a real trend at the moment, or they're a growing trend anyway. So what would you recommend in terms of personalisations? Perhaps we can talk about cocktails to begin with.
Yeah, cocktails are brilliant. You can always have a little bit of fun if you've got kind of a favourite cocktail that you drink and kind of make at home, or you can, as we mentioned before, ask what the venue can provide and maybe tweak it slightly. You can do a kind of couples cocktail where you have a specific cocktail and maybe that's the kind of drink for the toast, or you could maybe have a his and hers cocktail, so you each pick a cocktail that is your favourite, and then kind of people can choose between the two, and that's a nice way of having a simple cocktail menu, so it's not, again, as we went back to before, too long and unwieldy to manage from a service point of view, but that gets that personal touch in there, and you can either call it his and hers, you can call it wacky names and kind of nicknames for each other, or kind of you can have a bit of fun with the name of the cocktail, and keep it based on a classic recipe. So cocktails are really good fun, and then going back to us and what we provide for our gin experience, you can name your own spirits even. So if you come along, you have a completely bespoke recipe that you've done, but we also have dry gin that we have ready to go for complete personalised bottles, so you can have little miniatures. I've got a little miniature of our pink gin here.
Oh, Blue Peter maybe.
Absolutely. As prepared earlier. You've got pink gin that you can have, or a dry gin that we've got that's award winning, and you've got that for completely personalised label, cap, etc. And we even did this for Katie and I did this for two of our very good friends who got married just a few months ago, and we did all the labels, and then Katie, it was a kind of 3-4 hour drive to get there, and Katie was furiously putting on little lace bows on every single one, and that was we did that.
Perfect little wedding favour.
Yeah, exactly. They were all sat on the tables for people to either kind of take away or have a little sip of on the night. It's always good fun.
I mean, if gin or rum or whatever is like a very key spirit for you, why wouldn't you want to have a little gift for your guests of that kind of favour?
Absolutely, and that's where you've also got levels of personalisation, because you've got things from us, for instance, where by hopefully April, May 2023, we'll have a dry gin, a pink gin, a vodka, and a spiced rum to choose from, and you can completely personalise those in terms of the looks of them, or you can come along, as mentioned before, to us, and you can have even the bespoke spirit inside the bottle. So there's so many layers of things that you can do. It doesn't have to take a long time and you don't have to kind of come and do the full experience. Sometimes it's a nice, quick, easy personalization, which really kind of has an impact on your day and makes people take or kind of remember it, and they take that away maybe, and it's on their shelf in their gin collection.
Yeah, that's really nice.
It's always a nice memento.
And I mean, it doesn't have to be so-and-so and so-and-so's gin, does it? It can be like a creative name. Like if, I don't know, a place is very special to you, you could name it that place and everything like that. It's not necessarily just like Mr. and Mrs. Gin or Mrs. and Mrs. Gin. No, you can do whatever you want to, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the cocktail names. You can do Mr. and Mrs., which is nice, or you can do kind of you're kind of now
married surname.
Married
maybe?
surname,
Yeah.
exactly that. Thank you for saving me there. I was struggling. So you can do that, or you can have the place where your first date was, or where you first met, or something to do with the date, or where you proposed, etc., etc. So there's so many fun kind of and quirky things you can do. It's a really good way to add that personalisation.
I think the fun thing with gin as well, it's suitable for any time of year, isn't it? So you can, like, if you're getting married in the winter, perhaps you want to have like a slow gin or a sort of a spicier sort of gin, or in the summer it might be light and fruity. So you can always think of those kinds of elements when you're coming to that personalisation. Absolutely,
and that's the beauty of gin as a spirit in general, is it's so malleable to so many different kind of flavour profiles, and therefore, as you mentioned, seasons. So you can do so much with it. And also, you might have 50-50 dry and pink gin, or you might have, as you say, some slow gin, some dry gin, some spicier gin, kind of warming. And you can then maybe even tailor it with a range of spirits. You can kind of go through everyone that you know is coming, and you could even do a miniature specific to them. So if you know, well, that person doesn't like gin, well, we'll get him a spiced rum. You've gone that step further and thought about each person, and it's even more personalised for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really, really lovely.
Especially if you're going dry hire for something like that.
Yeah.
That's something you can very easily do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's wedding venues are typically kind of completely fine with wedding favours, and then on the bar you normally can pay a corkage fee and have this, that and the other to be able to put your own spin on the bar. So it really, really helps. Yeah,
and I mean, especially if it's a spirit. I mean, we talked earlier about how a bottle what was the number again? So how many?
In a large bottle, typically 70 cl, you get 28 shots. So that's...
Yeah, so if you've got 100 wedding guests and you want to make sure each of them have a gin and tonic or a single gin and tonic, that's 4 bottles. So you can then kind of work out in terms of corkage how much that might cost you.
Exactly that. And then it's how many drinks you think they might want. And you've got to think, singles versus doubles, because obviously doubles you get half the number. But it's also, the easiest one is possibly for the toast drink, if that's what you wanted as your toast drink. Let's
talk about the toast drink then. How can we personalise the toast drink?
You can have lots of fun with it. You can do something. You've obviously got the classic choice of Prosecco, champagne. You can, within that, have a little bit of fun. So you can have a kind of a slow gin, a kind of spiced gin, or kind of a sweeter pink gin, and drop that in there. Use it in the place of something like Chambord, where you would do a liqueur, and have it a little bit of something else added in there, make it a little bit different.
And something people won't expect. I mean, everyone expects a glass of Prosecco for the toast, but if they've suddenly been handed this pink fizzy thing.
And some people, I know most people like Prosecco, most people like champagne, but it can be quite dry sometimes, and some people kind of just don't get on with it. So having that other option of either sweetening it up or doing something a little bit different. You've always got cocktails as well, so something nice and simple. The bar can prep it, and get ready to ready to pass round and enjoy.
Amazing. So we also had on the list to discuss getting ready cocktails and hangover cocktails, which is really interesting. So do you want to just dive into like the ideas that you can have for like in the morning when you're getting ready, what you can drink that might be a little bit like more tame before, you don't want to be tripping down the aisle, something a little bit more tame before, and then in the next day the sort of the hangover cure drinks that you've mentioned.
Certainly, getting ready drinks is always a nice fun one. So yeah, you're up in the morning, you might be having kind of Bucks Fizz style something with breakfast, and then while you're getting ready, sounds silly, but I definitely stay away from anything too syrupy or brightly coloured, just in case any spillages happen.
Very good point.
That could be a little bit.
Have you experienced any spillage incidents in your time?
Not at weddings, although my first ever bar service for my pop-up cocktail bar, there were 2 of us, and we had mojitos on the menu, we had this, that and the other, but one of them was a strawberry daiquiri, and about half an hour in to a 4-hour service, the bartender next to me managed to split open his cocktail shaker and completely cover me in strawberry daiquiri. And the extra kick was that somehow not a single drop got on him, which made me think that it might have even been planned.
Sabotage.
Absolutely. But there's nothing worse than that happening, and then you've gone from having a kind of nice run into your wedding to panic stations because somebody's dress has got kind of strawberry daiquiri down it or what have you.
So steer clear of anything brightly coloured or sticky or anything like that.
Absolutely.
And you know what could be perfect on the wedding morning? A gin and tonic.
Absolutely. nice gin and tonic, calms the nerves, and you're away for the day.
Yeah, so in the morning we want to avoid sort of anything too strong, but also anything that's too sticky or brightly coloured.
Exactly.
So maybe your sort of Bellinis might be a little bit on the edge of that.
Yes, exactly.
So being careful.
Yes, being careful is always the most important thing. Maybe drink through a straw. Yeah,
maybe drink through a straw, or when you've go to put your outfits on, don't drink anything else but water at that point.
Yeah.
So let's talk about people at weddings that might not be drinking. So your designated drivers, the people that are sober or they prefer not to drink too much. How can we cater for those people?
I think it's important to kind of make sure that they're catered for, because it can be some people don't want to drink or don't like to drink, and that's fine. But some people might have simply drawn the short straw and they're the designated driver for the evening. So you want to make sure that they're having as good as an experience as everybody else. So you definitely want to cater for them. So you've got the obvious soft drink options. You then move into, well, what else can we do? So there are some lovely kind of non-alcoholic cocktail options out there. I know I said stay away from mojitos. I'm going to go back on my word slightly, only because there is an amazing non-alcoholic mojito recipe that I've used before, where you simply substitute out the rum for apple juice and the soda water for ginger ale, and you still get that feeling of having a proper cocktail. The ginger ale gives it a little bit of a bite and kind of feels like something's in there, and therefore you don't feel left out kind of in the round of drinks as well. And you can also tailor that, so you don't have to have it as the fully built mojito. It can be done as a kind of ginger and apple teeny with a little bit of mint, lime juice, bit of sugar and apple juice, and topped with ginger ale. So you can strip it back a little bit, but I think having more grown-up mocktail options rather than just the 2 or 3 juices mixed together, I think always, again, it's about thinking about your guests and how they're coming away from the wedding feeling of, oh wow, they've thought about, I'm not drinking, I'm one of 10 people at the wedding not drinking, but the bride and groom have really thought about me and kind of made that effort, which I think people always appreciate.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think, you know, my mum, for example, she doesn't drink. So when we were talking about what to do for my wedding, she was saying, oh, actually, I might put a little bit behind the bar for soft drinks, and then anyone that just wants a soft drink, then they're covered the whole night. They don't need to worry about buying their drink. Whereas the alcohol, they're definitely going to be buying themselves, because that's slightly too expensive for me. But yeah, the sort of having the open bar for soft drinks is probably a nice idea as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can get these days some really good non-alcoholic wines, and especially sparkling, and some non-alcoholic beers. So you have got options there for people, and I think it's always having a few, kind of making sure that you've got a bit of a stock of something for those people. But yeah, kind of open bar, kind of paid for bar for soft drinks is a really, really lovely idea to, soften the blow for those designated drivers sometimes.
Yeah, I would probably agree on that. And so we sort of swerved past it a second ago, but let's go back a little bit and talk about hangover cocktails. Because when we were prepping for the episode, we were saying like, oh, there's a really good hangover cocktail which is a bit tame, but it will make you feel a lot better the morning after. Yeah. Tell us more.
So the traditional one is always Bloody Mary. So it's a love it or hate it cocktail. So it's not for everyone, but it works really, really well. You can't get away from it. So you've always got option of Bloody Marys, but again, similar to the wedding morning, you've got things like a Bucks Fizz. It's sometimes nice just to come down, and you know what, hair of the dog slightly works. So something like a little Bucks Fizz, or again using a bit of a kind of slow gin or something, if people don't or kind of would prefer that, or don't typically drink Prosecco or anything like that, is nice just to have in a small dose, small amount, but just keeps you ticking through the morning after, where you're probably maybe doing a bit of clearing up, or maybe simply just trying to find the energy to pack up the hotel room and get back to
bring your sunglasses, put sunglasses on, eat your fry up or whatever you're doing to soak all of that all up, and have a sip of a Bloody Mary or a Bellini or a Bucks Fizz or something to calm the, as I say, hair of the dog.
Indeed.
Perfect. So we talked earlier in the episode about hen and stag experiences.
Yes.
Do you want to go into more detail about what that actually involves, and sort of how it sort of becomes as a great experience for, you know, couples or their wedding parties to take part in?
Absolutely. So what we offer always is a really tailored experience. So if you were coming along just as a couple, you can book on one of our Saturday experiences and come along, just the two of you, and you'll be in a group of other people. And that's our kind of regular gin experiences that we run. As soon as you get to 8 or more people, you can book our experience room just for you. So private booking at a time and a date to suit you. And from there, because it's a private booking, we can really tailor the experience to what you want to get out of it. So I've run these before. I've had some hen parties that were completely bonkers, and then I've had a couple of stag do's where everything gets ultra competitive. So
love it.
Everyone was racing who still was going to finish first. At the end, they were trying to get me to rank the gins on kind of
taste,
first to last on taste. And so you can be quite creative with it and inventive with it. And also we can cater for slightly larger parties. So we've got 12 stills, but people can buddy up on a still, and if you've got a slightly larger group, we can really make that experience bespoke. And I think that's what we as a distillery in general are all about. So whether it's the gins and the white label things that we can do for personalization, all the way down to the experiences that we run, we kind of sit down and we listen to what you want out of the event and the experience. And as I say, as long as you've got 8 or more people, we can... Most
hen and stag parties do, I guess.
Yeah,
if not, you could do a stendu and sort of combine them together.
Absolutely.
But that sounds really fun, actually. And it's actually a nice sort of daytime activity before the antics of the night.
Yeah, I have had, again, stag do's are normally the culprits. One person did decide to make the world's worst gin deliberately, so they got all of they.
Seems like they're getting their money's worth there.
Yeah, so they decided. So we've got our botanical wall split into all of our different sections. So we've got kind of your classics.
We'll pop a picture of it up now.
Yeah,
there's
we've got
instruction.
Perfect. We've got our classic. You've got a kind of classic botanicals. You've got peppercorns. You've got fruits, citrus, spices, and then we've got a miscellaneous section in the bottom right corner. So we've got things like coffee, chili flakes, banana, kind of weird and wonderful things. And they decided because they were going out that evening that they were gonna do the kind of the shot for the evening when anyone did something wrong. So
that's actually, you know what, I did say, sounds like you got my money worth there, but actually if they're doing a shot of something that someone's done wrong and they have to do this shot, then you know what, that's probably a good shot.
I have to say, I've run hundreds of these experiences and kind of helped people making through kind of thousands of bottles of gin. It is the one gin that I would say was kind of, it's the exception of, that's not something that someone's going away and enjoying. In every other sense, in every other kind of instance, we always guide people and help them, and they always go away happy with what they've produced. That is the one exception.
The one exception to the rule.
In fairness, it was deliberate
for a purpose.
It was for a purpose. So,
which is always the mindset to have.
Absolutely.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Jacob, thank you so much for talking us through your gin experiences and the other things that Henley Distillery can do for weddings. And I always love bringing some unique ideas to our audience, because I've never heard of anything like this before, and it's great to be able to talk about it and sort of introduce it to the Guides for Brides listeners. If you want to learn more about Henley Distillery, we will pop the link to more information on the Guides for Brides website in the show notes, as well as to their social media. And of course, you can follow us at Guides for Brides. Until next time, we hope you enjoy your wedding planning.